questions for Coach Johnson?
Coach, how was it today? First day in Shells, kind of what do you see?
I thought it was pretty good. All three practices, we have got an excellent retention and carryover from our system in the spring, obviously in the fall. I thought the first practice, we had a couple of periods of lackadaisical focus. I wouldn't call it loafing, but I don't think there was an intensity that we're going to expect around here. In the last two practices, I think players understood that wasn't Auburn standard. It's been really good since then. We still make a few little mistakes, but it's just amazing how far ahead we are from where we were about the same time last year as far as getting things done and not having repeated mistakes and just kind of knowing how things fit together, all the little things. So we've been really pleased with that part of it. Now, we put the pads on uppers today and got to get a little contact, but it still was very much a, if you will, a pro NFL type approach. Stay off the ground, learn how to practice, learn how to compete, make your buddy better, but take care of him. So that we didn't tackle live or anything like that. But it obviously helps you to have uppers so you can have kind of live blocking in the line of scrimmage, and you can have a little more physical confrontation out on the flanks with the stop blocks and the receivers and the DBs and that kind of thing. So I'm anxious to really get some full speed tackling practice as soon as we can, because obviously that's very important. But it's just that stage where we can't work on that part of it. But overall, it was better.
Ellis, is the plan to keep Justin Garrett the star, and in relation to that, how are things at weak side linebacker?
It's good. I mean, I got more bodies than I had last year. I'm not very, I think it's a big difference in the word pleased and satisfied. You know, I've very seldom been displeased in our kids because they give a great effort and it's important to them. But I'm not satisfied right now where we are after our first two linebackers. We got a lot of work to do. It's pretty much wide open. Kenny Flowers had a good spring. Kahar Harding only had about 5 or 6 practices. Javier missed spring, and then Anthony missed spring, and then Cameron, you know, he's a redshirt freshman coming on. So that, for different reasons, that's kind of a mad scramble right now. I like the way they're competing, and I think we'll be fine. We'll find some depth in there. The 2 true freshmen are doing really well. They're picking up things a little quicker than I probably thought they would mentally. They don't look like they're going to have any problem mixing it up physically. So I'm not going to be surprised if one of them ends up in the mix. So right now, the only problem I have is I can't get them all enough repetitions to really make a decision. It's going to have to be a scrimmage, maybe 2, before I know who those other 2 guys are behind Frost and McKenzie.
But Garrett's the guy solely
Yes,
star.
and he played better out there in the first place. We moved him last year when he came off that foot injury because we did have a depth issue in there. Then he got hurt again. And his play in there was very average, but he didn't have much time to learn. But I think he's a better space player. He's a great blitzer off the edge, has improved his cover skills out there tremendously, and he made a lot of plays for us in space during the spring. Had a great spring the year before, and the injuries, unfortunately, have always kept him from having a really stellar season, and I hope good luck, follows us this year. If that kid could have a full season of practice and games, I just think he can still be one of our most dynamic playmakers. So he's done a really good job out there so far.
What about the decision to move Josh Holsey back to corner?
Well, we kind of went back and forth with it. We feel like your boundary corner's got to be a big physical guy, and that's where he was last year before we moved him. We had 2 or 3 guys playing well there, so we felt like we had the luxury of moving him inside when we lost McNeil. And he had cover skills, corner skills. We wanted to get him back out there and see if he could be that boundary corner. Mincy played there all during the spring, but frankly, it made us really thin over on the field side. And he had done such a great job for us over on the field corner. We felt like we were moving too many people to solve one problem. So that was kind of the decision. There's going to be some musical chairs and things probably up in the next 2 weeks now, because we've got more able bodies. We've got kids that are really making some plays out there, and we're going to see some guys that maybe can help us in a different position. And I could foresee some position moves, but not right now. We're trying to get them enough reps so we can give them a fair evaluation where they are playing.
So you think Josh is going to stay at corner and you're going to keep Derek Moncrief at safety then?
The word think, I think so. I mean, that's what, it's kind of how we want it to work out. But hey, if another player can beat them out, so be it. But that's kind of where we feel like we'd love for it to fall. We feel like we have the experience level and skill sets that we want. And those others now are doing a good job.
Has there been any kind of position changes
Since,
since you started?
no, not since we started.
Between spring and then, I guess?
Well, since spring, of course, the addition of the young guys, not really. You know, I guess they're all about the same place. You know, Gabe's working inside and outside. Montravius at this point has not yet worked inside, outside. We probably will do both. That was going on in the spring though, so those are those. And then, of course, Halsey, we held him out, so he's back in the lineup now. And I guess the biggest move was Mincy back to field corner.
So what's Montravius doing right now, for the most part?
More inside, playing tackle right now. But we plan to double teach him, but he's a younger player than Gabe, and so it's not as easy for him to learn both, but we'll double teach him too.
You think Gabe will be at an end for the most part?
You know, I don't know. I think, you know, it's going to depend more upon other players than it will Gabe. We feel like Gabe could be the best defensive end, Gabe might be the best defensive tackle. So the question is, who's the other guy? Who's the other tackling end that's the best football player? We'll put them on the field and ask Gabe, you know, to play the other one. So that's going to be something that's going to have to work out over the next several days of practice.
Ellis, have any of the young guys, the freshmen, caught your eye yet that you've liked?
You know, they make a flash play here and there, so to answer your question, quite frequently. But now, most of them are pretty far away from trusting them in an opening game against an SEC opponent. But just in my eyes today, I saw Boston make two really good plays, you know, something that they probably had missed on 2 days ago. Nick Ruffin had some really good plays in coverage. A lot of things I could point to. Been very pleased with both linebackers, but they all making mistakes too. They're making some mistakes that you couldn't make and play in a game, so they're still in the learning curve.
With Ladarius Owens, I mean, he almost got the quarterback 11 times last season. He had to battle through some injuries. What do you think he's capable of this year? Can he be one of your better rush-ins?
I think he can, you know, and with Carl not being in the lineup, he's gonna have to be. You know, we can't just have two, can't just have one. We gotta have four that can do a really good job. And I don't think there's any question. I mean, he showed that ability last year.
Who else are you looking at in besides Ladarius that you think can give you that pass rushing ability?
Elijah, you know, Elijah really sometimes on those obvious pass downs, he might be a better inside guy. He's not as quite an edge guy. We work in McKenzie a little bit. Every time I can steal time from my practice schedule to get Cass over there to Rodney, he needs the skill sets with his hand work and his footwork, because he's probably, as far as the first step, the ability to flip his hips, drop his hips, the power that you have to have sometimes to be a good pass rusher, he's got them all. But when you play linebacker, you don't work on that very long during the practice schedule. So I'm trying to get times where I can get him to Rodney to work on those things, and we'll eventually, hopefully, get him involved in that pass rush group if he can bring something to the table.
Have you seen him have some sort of natural pass rushing skills before?
Yes,
Nova?
the blitzing, you know,
Yeah.
when he blitzes. I mean, and then we go one-on-one with the running backs, and he's the best I've got, you know, with them trying to block him. He's gotten up to around 250, maybe a little more. He's still one of the quicker kids we got. He can sink his hips and, you know, drop his pad level. He can flip his hips and make the turn. He can do a lot of things, but he doesn't know how to do them very well right now. So we got to get him more repetition of that.
Ellis, I know it's very early, but one of the things you're looking for from Cass was really communication, less physical skill and traits. What have you seen from the off-season development in these first few practices?
He's been good, been really good. He's had complete control of our front, you know, making all those decisions. And we've had absolutely no problems. Chris is sharp too. They both on the same page and getting it done inside. Chris has really, at this point, I think, been a better leader. I think he's been one of our leaders on the field. First in line and everything. Always great effort. Don't ever see him take a lazy step, you know, and I think we've got to get that way with all our players. Many of the rest of them are doing it too. In my group, I'm saying, you know, Chris is the one motor runs constantly at high speed. Cass got the greatest skill set of all of them. If he can just be an every down player and bring it full speed every day, meetings, drills, everything. You know, study, performance on the field, practicing, everything he does. He's got to learn to keep his foot on the pedal and go full speed every play.
Couple more.
What about Devontae and Deborah and the junior college guys?
They're doing well, doing well. Rodney noticed when we had those NCAA allowable times in the summer, he got to work with them a little bit on just skill drills. And really, I was impressed with a lot of our new guys up front, but 2 junior college guys in particular. We feel like they'll help us real soon.
I feel like outside of Auburn, people don't love Jermaine Whitehead. I mean, they don't talk much about him and stuff. And you're a guy, you ran him out there a whole lot last year. Just tell me what you liked about him and how valuable he is.
Well, I guess the code word on him is consistency. You know, he doesn't have all the sexy stats that you gotta have to get national media attention. I mean, people can't sit down and watch every college player on film, so they go to the statistics. And that's important, don't get me wrong. It's about making plays. But, you know, he's kind of quarterbacked our defense back there in the back, and we lost Halsey, tremendous load on his shoulders, because the others not in control of what they were doing there as much as Josh had been. So that all fell back on Whitehead. And I just think, you know, if you go back over his previous 3 years, I'd say he's probably been about as consistent football player as Auburn's had.
Ellis, how have you felt like Trevon has continued to make the transition over to your side of the ball?
Melvin says he's been really good. And he'll get some things maybe on a downfield ball, a receiver, you know, will box him out or possibly get on his back shoulder or something, do some little technical things, you know, that he's got to learn all those little things, how to, you know, take care of himself in those situations. But his skill set, really good. Probably one of the faster kids on that side of the ball when they moved him. He's done a really good job. Melvin feels like he's definitely in the battle for the number 2 spot and can really push us a little bit. You know, if he could ever become a starter, it could give us that much more depth to have some movement. Those are going to be some of the positions I was talking about earlier that as kids improve and some of their production rises to the top. You know, may have some moves based on that, but he would be one of those. He's made enough plays out there that he could be one of those guys that gives us some luxury on the depth chart. But we've been pleased overall.